now headed to our last panel of the day. We've heard a handful of speakers whose lives have changed drastically since they learned how to speak French. All of them had fantastic careers in different fields. And today we are lucky enough to be graced by individuals who are here to remind us the difference learning French can do to our lives. So we will start introducing our last panel for this afternoon. Let us welcome GoFluent Philippine founder and marketing director.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Bonjour.
Good afternoon. Bonjour. Joining us this afternoon also is Biondi Sima, who works for and with the World Bank. Hello.
Hi, Zara. Hi, everyone.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We're good. We are thrilled that you're here. We will jump to your questions in just a bit, but we also want to introduce Chandanila, who works with the government of Western Australia in their overseas office in Jakarta. Hello.
Hello, Zara. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to see you. Nice to virtually meet all of you. All right. Hi, Bobby, Biondi, and Chandili. I hope I'm saying everyone's names correctly before I move forward. Oh, okay, all good. Thanks so much for being here. We do have a few questions for you, and our participants, they're very excited to get to know you and your experience better. So let's start. Okay, so let me jump off with Bobby. So Bobby, you studied in ESC Lille after Bachelor in DLSU Animal. How did you get this opportunity?
Well, I was looking for a master's program back then. So that was in 2002, I think. And I approached the French embassy. And back then they had what they called it Edu France, which is now Campus France. And they were the ones who introduced me to the different opportunities in the different institutions in France. So I applied to ESL Lille and I got accepted. So that's how I ended up studying there. But just going back on why I chose France instead of another country, English-speaking countries, because I went to France when I was 16 as a solo backpacker, and it was so difficult for me that there was no internet at that time, and it was such a traumatic experience for me not being able to speak the language. And I made it my own personal challenge that one day when I grow up, I will prove to myself that I can live in that country. And so that's what I did. So when the opportunity came to study abroad, I chose France.
I love it. Yeah, and it is true. No, you get to enjoy the more scenic parts of it if you have a better appreciation of the culture with the language, get to share it with other people. So speaking of that whole experience, one, how was your experience learning the language, given that it's very different from English or Filipino? How was that transition for you?
Well, I think I studied at Alliance Française here in Manila, but then when I got there, it's as if I had not learned anything. Not because they were very good. They were very good in teaching the language, but you learn with people who don't speak the language, so everybody talks a little bit slow, and the teacher has to adjust to you. And then when I got there, everyone was just speaking so fast. I could read things, I could say things, but the moment they spoke to me, it's like, oh my gosh, I could pick up bits and pieces of what they were saying. And then I went to school. Part of the curriculum was in English, and then there were some in French, but we had the option to stay in the English classes. So I did both. So for example, we did finance, and finance was in English, but I would also attend the French version so that my ears would get trained. So, my education, my training at the Alliance Française helped me a lot to understand what was going on in the French classes. So it took some time. It really took some time. And I think what really boosted my knowledge of the language was watching TV. At the beginning, I couldn't really understand what they were saying. And then slowly, I was picking up things, and I was thinking, oh wow, I wasn't really exerting much effort, but then I could understand things. So uh, and I would force myself to speak the language, although I know that I would get strange stares at times and people not understanding what I was saying, but I was never afraid to commit mistakes. So I think that's one thing that everyone has to learn, is that don't be afraid to commit mistakes, because that's a hesitation. You don't want to look stupid, but honestly, that's the best way to learn the language. Just you commit mistakes and you learn from them and you correct yourself.
I super resonate with what you said. I feel like I've told this to Vincent also. I can read things. I can do it word per word, but when someone says it to you, I'm like, what did you just say? But I'm getting there, guys. 1.3. Wait a minute. Okay. So I heard that you lived in Paris for
Yes,
many years. Can you
yes.
walk us through one, obviously you were there because of school and work. Were you juggling both at the same time? And how was that experience?
Okay, well, I did my master's in management at USC Lille, and then part of the program was for you to do a 6-month internship at any company around Europe. And so Go Fluent was looking for an intern at that time, so I applied. So I went down to Paris from Lille. I stayed there for a few months, and then later on, I'm no longer with Go Fluent, by the way. I'm now an entrepreneur. So um, they assigned me to recruit teachers at that time, but then 2004 was the call center boom of the Philippines. That's when all of the call centers were entering, and then uh, one thing led to another, and I suggested to the company, I think this business model will work in the Philippines. And so the CEO, who's still the CEO right now, sent me back home and asked me, he asked me to do a study, and then I presented everything to him. And then at the end of 1 week of us working together here, he told me, you know what? We're going back to Paris. You pack your bags and you're gonna go back home, and you put up Go Fluent in the Philippines. And I ran it for 5 years before going back to Paris as the marketing director of Go Fluent. So here I was a country manager for 5 years,
Mhm.
and then I went back to Paris to head the marketing department.
And what would you then advise people speaking French or coming back from studying in France to boost their career?
Okay. Always, the thing that I've because I'm part of this association called FAPA, France Alumni Philippines Association. So we put together people who have had the same experience, Filipinos or anyone who has studied in France who has come back to the Philippines. So we try to put them together. And one thing that I've learned is that a lot of people, because they're there on an exchange program, they don't get to learn the language that well. And so when they come back here, they forget about it, and it's such a waste. You already have the basic knowledge, you've already experienced the culture, you've already experienced living there. So my advice is, when you come back here, continue to learn it. Continue to watch TV in French. Enroll at Alliance Française. Join FAPA. You'll get to meet people who can speak the language or who have had the same experiences as you. So you have something in common. And career-wise, it really helped me. I was my French was my working language for so many years. I think in the funny thing is, in a day working in Paris, I think maybe 60 or 70% of my working language was in French, and then 20% would be in English, and then the 10% would be in Filipino, because I was also working with Filipino. So just strive to continue to learn the language, because it's easy to forget. If you don't have friends who can speak the language, watch TV. It's as easy as that.
Sing songs,
Yeah, sing songs.
French
That works
songs.
too. Yeah.
So one last question before we head on to Beyondy. Um, what did you want to be before? When you were younger, you had dreams. What was that dream that you wanted to be? And how did learning French change that, if it did?
Growing up, I saw myself being a big boss of a company. Because
Mm.
that's how my dad was. He was a big boss. And then when at one point in my career, I stood up in, just looking at, I walked around my office of 300 people, and I was about, I don't know, I think I was about 28 at that time. And I told myself, gosh, I'm, I was able to achieve this. And the fact that I could speak the language was so important, because the CEO is French, the head of production is French, the IT head is French. So I don't think I would have been able to attain that level in the company if I did not have my knowledge of French.
Proficiency.
So, yeah. So it really changed. It really boosted my career. I think I'm lucky. I'm one of the lucky ones who was able to get into a position that high at such a young age. And French played a key role, an extremely key role in achieving this. And I until this day, I still look back at when I first landed in France and was having a hard time, and now I'm here sharing my experiences. And it's something that I will forever treasure. I think I try to speak it as much as I can. I try to attend socials as much as I can, and I don't think I'll ever stop. I'll try to continue doing what I'm doing.
Thank you so much, Bobby. That's such a great insight. So to everyone, watch TV, sing songs, and keep learning French. Okay, so now let's bring on Biondi Sima to the virtual stage. So let us, get to know you a bit better. Yeah. So I understand that you studied in France. You studied in Sciences Po, is how to say it. Sciences Po, right? Which is one of the most prestigious schools for political science. How did you come to know of that school?
Yeah, I actually was born and raised in a small city called Bali, and I didn't actually heard about the school until I was about to apply. So when I checked like the global ranked, I came to know that Sciences Po is apparently one of the most prestigious schools, not only in Paris, but also across Europe and across the world. I actually pronounced it as Sciences Po, even when I was already admitted that it was actually Sciences Po, and I was very grateful. The teachers, which I thought was true, thought that there aren't many students who took the exact same program during the whole master's degree, because there's always a combination between 2 majors and concentrations. So in my case, my program was a double degree program between Paris, Peking University in Beijing, and it was also having an extra course at Stanford. So it's always like a combination of things.
Yeah.
So it was in economic policy, and my concentration was in diplomacy, and then the second degree was in sustainable development. So really, all this combination of major, minor concentrations makes each individual becomes unique, and they can always cherry pick the program that suits their interests the most. So it was one of the top schools. And the what I really like about the school as well is that a lot of the lecturers are practitioners themselves. Some of my lecturers were actually former ministers in another country elsewhere, and then some of them, when they teach Iranian nuclear negotiation, they themselves were the one who resolved one of the toughest negotiation during the Iran nuclear proliferation conflicts. So I think learning something from someone who've actually experienced that firsthand really add a lot of insights and nuance to usually only able to either read on textbook or watch elsewhere.
Wait, sorry. So when did you start learning French?
Yeah, my story is a little bit twisted, Sarah, because I only started learning French when I was in the school. So I didn't actually learn.
Those subjects are hard enough as they are.
Yeah. So the whole program is actually in English, but they teach us French, twice a week in order for us to survive our daily lives. Because of course we would have to go out and interact with people. But the whole program was actually done in English. But I get the chance to finally be able learning French when I was in the school. And I was struggling pretty much because I didn't even know what 0 to 10 in French until I was in that school. And then the professor was already like, even though it's a level 0, but she's already like speaking to us in full-fledged French, and I was a little bit lost every day. But I think that's exactly how I jumpstart my French speaking experience, and probably some of the people in the audience could relate to my circumstances, whereas you really wanted to study in one of the top schools in Paris or in France, but you aren't confident with your language skills. Sometimes letting yourself, plunge head first into the pool would really help you actually survive. And apparently there are a lot of people who did that, and I was one of probably the living proof. And then
amazing.
after the program ends, I continue actually study French in one of the program here in Jakarta. And during the pandemic, they also do it online. So just like what Bobby said, I didn't stop studying the language during just the programs, but I continue learning that even long after the program finished.
I mean, from not knowing how to count 0 to 10, now you are with the World Bank. How did that happen?
Yeah, so right after I finished my program, I joined a nonprofit organization for humanitarian response, which was also related to my background, because the city where I was born and raised in was a disaster-prone area. It was also stricken by tsunami, liquefaction, and earthquake back in 2018, which caused a lot of casualties. And my presence there also helped a little bit of disaster management during the period where my hometown was affected. And then from that moment, my career was sort of directed into more like digital and how it helps with development. And then I moved to the provincial government. So it's a little bit the opposite of what I initially dreamed of. So I went to a hyper-local institution, whereas I helped the COVID-19 task force management in provincial level. It was in West Java, which consists of over 50 million population, which was also an interesting experience trying to tame the pandemic using digital platforms. And then only afterwards, then I got recognized through networking. And then I got picked and got that reference to actually come and join the World Bank through a consultancy project for the acceleration of digital government in Indonesia. And yeah, and how my language was also useful. I was also like, before the pandemic, I got invited as one of the CSO fellows in the World Bank Summit in DC. And that's how I learned that in many international organizations, French is also like the working language. So sometimes, even though they know that some of the audience aren't really fluent in French, but they so often casually just switch their language from English to French. And that's how I learned as well that even though it's never written that you have to know how to speak French, it's just part of the culture that if you know both languages, it would help you connect more, and it also help you network with more people, because most of the talents in there would usually learn both languages as they in organizations.
Yeah, your trajectory when it comes to education has been a thrill, to say the least. Like, I don't even have the right adjectives for it anymore, but my very the cherry on top of it all is you interned at the UNESCO headquarters in Paris. How did you do that? Sign me up. No, but seriously, how was that experience?
Yeah, it was also a very thrilling experience, to borrow your word, because UNESCO headquarters is such a melting pot as well, and they handle a lot of different topics. So from one week to the other, let's say this week we would be talking about African market. So a lot of the decoration in the hall would all about commodities from African markets. And then the next week would be like the commemoration of the ASEAN week or ASEAN days. And then a lot of the decoration would all about fishes and corals and all the conferences will also be about that. So I think the level of exposure and the kind of industries that you're exposed to is very varied. And I was very grateful that I get that opportunity. And there are a lot of doors that are open once you actually go to a French education, because it's either through direct recruitment or it can also be through your permanent representative. In my case, I got that opportunity during one of the a conference I was hosted by the Indonesian embassy at Paris. And they said that they want more Indonesian students to be exposed to international organization. But at that time it was full. So I got directed to the Sri Lankan permanent representative who were in UNESCO. And that's how I contributed to that organization.
Amazing. Wow. If only we would love to do all the things you did. You're super cool. We love it. Okay. So
Thank
one
you.
last thing. You did mention that you came from a smaller town, and I'm sure that there are a lot of, ambitious young entrepreneurs or just young dreamers in general who look up to this story. What is your advice to them when it comes to, just kind of going for it, regardless of the cards that you're dealt with?
Right. Yeah. And even up to now, I'm still feeling like I would have to learn a lot to keep up with the ever-changing dynamics of the world. But I think I'm also quite, I can also be proud of myself coming from Palu and studying in Paris. I think it really tells a story of that your background shouldn't dictate where you go to. And then whatever your dream is, you should really go for it. Sometimes the environment could be limiting constraints, but it can also be an enabler for you to really strive. And sometimes it's also part of the silver lining that in my case, I always longing to come back and to help build my community, because I think that's the very essence of getting a higher education elsewhere, so that you can be of use. And then it's not only for yourself, but also for the environment where you come from. And probably a lot of people, youngsters in Palu would be able to learn more or relate more if they see the proof from someone who is actually coming from the same background as they are. So that's what I did with Palu Productive, which is one of the initiative that I made during the pandemic for the communities in Palu.
That is so amazing. Thank you so much. If
Thank
you
you so
have
much.
announcements, do drop it in the chat box so that the people can also, our viewers can also know more about this project or whatever initiatives you have. I'm sure that they would love to see how they could support that. Right. We have one more speaker for this afternoon segment, but before I jump onto that, if you want information about studying in France, don't forget to visit Campus France. Their booth is on the left side of the platform. You only have to click the tab sponsors and then you can find them there and then just book an appointment. All right, it's time to get to know our next speaker. Hi, Chandini, how are you?
Hi, Zara. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to hear your story. So you also graduated from the famous school, Sciences Po.
Correct.
So did you and Biondi actually meet there?
Oh, well,
were you guys friends there?
Well, for Sciences Po, I started in 2014 at that time. I took my master's in international energy. But the first time I met Biondi was actually a long time ago. It's like 2010, wasn't it, Biondi? So there was this conference at my university in Indonesia. And he was joining the conference over there. And that was the first time we met each other. And then we met again for the second time in Paris. But the second time we met, when I was in Paris, I just returned from the Czech Republic after doing my internship program over there. And then Biondi was like just starting his first year over there at Sciences Po.
Okay, so I forgot to ask this to Biondi also, but I guess for your case, how was the process of applying to Sciences Po? Was it an exchange student type thing? Did you apply for a scholarship? Did you go full on? How was it? Did you apply via Campus France?
Right. So the first time I heard about Sciences Po is actually from one of the professors at the University of Indonesia. And then I applied online, like the entire process was online. I was required to provide some documents, including some recommendation letters, for example. But at some point, I had encounter with Campus France as well, and then they helped me. They helped me in the sense that they gathered my documents as well, and then they also helped the process. But I also did my own process, like registration process, through the official website of Sciences Po.
How did you actually learn to speak French? Were you already native in speaking French when you got there, or did you learn there like beyond you, or did you do it?
More or less like beyond you. It was like actually I was first
just jump in,
without parachute. So I was first introduced to French. It was actually during my high school. It was an extracurricular, like one of those foreign languages that you can take outside the main school courses at that time. So that was my first encounter with French language. And then I never really had any official, like formal French courses, like at any institution at all. And then when I was at the university, I totally missed it, like not using it, not learning it at all. But I started to pick it up again when I was about to start my study at Sciences Po. So at Sciences Po, I was supposed to start in 2013 because I was already accepted for that academic year. But at that time, I still didn't have my scholarship. So but thankfully, Sciences Po actually offered like 3 options. Like I could start on that very year, or I could start in the next year, which is 2014, or I could, I could just reject the offer from that side. But I decided to defer my study because I really wanted to study there. So I spent around 1 year, like the 1 year gap, to actually find a scholarship program. And I got one from the Minister of Finance in Indonesia. It is called the Indonesia Endowment Fund for Education. So I happen to be one of the awardees. We call it LPDP in Indonesia. So I happen to be one of the awardees of LPDP. And the scholarship program covered the whole tuition fee and then the living cost and so on.
Wow. I mean, from all those steps and to where your career is now, and I do believe that you also had the opportunity to be a part of the public policy and government relations team of the leading e-commerce company in Indonesia. Is that right? For a few years. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
All right. So I actually started this job, like my current job at the government of Western Australia. It's actually pretty recent. I started in April 2022. And before that, I was with Tokopedia. I was with the public policy and government relations team over there. And Tokopedia is actually one of the leading e-commerce companies in Indonesia. They have been serving, around 12 million of sellers on their platform. And then I was there. I was responsible mainly to conduct, like engagement with stakeholders, with business entities as well, with mainly it was actually government stakeholders, like from the central government, from the regional government. So that was actually my main responsibility. And on top of that, I was also responsible to actually craft the key messages for advocacy purposes, because when it comes to tech company, they normally deal with lots of issues like personal data protection and then trade restrictions, for example, things like that. That's was actually a part of my responsibility at Tokopedia.
Okay. Wow. Let me take a minute to absorb everything that you just did. Amazing. I just want to say amazing. I mean, you, Biondi, Bobby, like all the stories now, I just want to be in level C and go for gold too. Okay. One last question, Chandini. What about the network of alumni from French universities in Indonesia? Is it active, and how does it help when it comes to networking, creating professional opportunities? Is everyone like close in that alumni network?
All right. So in general, in Indonesia, we are actually in touch with the French embassy here in Jakarta, in Indonesia. So from time to time, we are invited to join their events at the embassy. But on top of that, we also have the Indonesian Association for the alumni from Sciences Po. So there's actually that branch as well. That's actually like Biondi and myself, we're a part of the alumni network for Xiangspor in Indonesia. So that actually helps a lot to connect us with different people coming from different backgrounds, and introducing ourselves and what we're doing was actually like, is there any opportunities that we can explore? To some extent, that kind of association actually provides you with lots of opportunities and a lot of exposures as well. So I would say that it has been helping me a lot, and being able to speak French actually helps me to connect with more people as well in my job. While like working for the government of Western Australia, I speak like English for my daily activities at work, but from time to time, whenever I meet people from work and I mention that I spent some time in France, it actually helped me a lot. Like we speak in French from time to time. That actually helps building more trust, because some of them actually spend some time as well at French-speaking countries, for example.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chandini, Biondi, and Bobby. Let's give them a big round of a virtual applause, everyone. Thank you for being here. All right. So as promised, we have one last question for our pop quiz question for today, which means this is your last chance to get that free French session from the Alliance of your choice. Again, you can claim it from the Alliance Française in Bali, Bangkok, Kuala Lumpur, Brunei, Manila, Medan, Penang, and Singapore. And of course, you can redeem this via online, on-site, or HiFlex. Okay, this question is a fun one. It's going to be easy, so I hope everyone's ready. Don't forget to wait for my go signal. Here we go. So Chandini and Biondi studied in the same famous school. What is the name of this famous school? Ready, set, go. Wrong spelling, wrong. Okay, we are seeing a bunch of answers. Let me see. Ooh, the first one who got it right was, okay, let me confirm, since I am not an alumnus. Is it science or sciences? I mean the spelling.
Yeah.
With an S.
With an S.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So the winner is Pogi Kurniawan. Pogi Kurniawan. Congratulations. There you go. Congratulations. You just won yourself a free session from Alliance Française. You can claim it online, on-site, or HiFlex, and of course in the branch of your choosing. Okay, speaking of studying in France, we do have Campus France as one of our partners. So if you are looking to take on higher education in France, make sure to visit their booth during the sponsors tab. All you have to do is click that sponsors tab, check out their booth, ask all your questions. They will be happy to answer. Okay, and at this point, I do believe we have a few more representatives who will be calling on to the virtual stage to tell us more about the opportunities that they have under their companies. Okay, so actually, let me start first with Castellis. So I do believe they have job openings for cloud engineer, DevOps engineer, customer success manager. And if you want to get in touch with them, feel free to reach out to Geoffroy Morgan, Hicham Garib, and Mark Santillan. So these are your point persons. We will also put this on the chat box, so that you can get to know and coordinate them better. And of course, to tell you more about this opportunity, I would like to call on Mr. Geoffroy Morgan de Rivery.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So thank you very much for having me today. I'll be brief. Basically, I just wanted to explain a bit and to talk a bit about the Castellis group of companies. So Castellis was created in 1999 as an IT engineering company. Actually, we started working in custom development for the Mazar group. And at that time, the idea was to actually digitize and to go through the web for collection of data, of banking data. And at that time, it was a bit revolutionary because people had no idea you could use the web for application. So today we expanded over the years in a full IT service group by growing and also by acquiring several companies in France, such as Access IT, Ely, Usely, Sudalis Trees, and recently Everbrand. So I created Castellis Asia a few years ago in the Philippines to be able to cover in 24/7 the services to the various clients that we support, and also to get some talents in the Philippines, since it's a bit hard to recruit in France, and especially more at the moment, since the boom of IT services. We don't have enough. We have a lot of demand and not enough supplies of trained individuals. So today in the Philippines, we grew the team to almost 50 people, and we support mainly large French companies such as L'Oréal, such as Air France, Airbus, Renault, Leclerc, Accor, Vallourec, Rexel, or even the SNCF, the French railways. So we're ramping up fast as the demand is increasing, and we're also onboarding new clients. We just started working recently with Deloitte, with FM Logistique, or with Comexposium. And we're basically supporting all these people, and we're able to support all these people because of our office in the Philippines. And we have also increased the line of services that we provide. So we started mostly in, as you can see, in cloud services, cyber security, and web and mobile development, custom application development, and ERP services. And so overall, right now, we're looking at, we need basically to recruit more people. So up in the Philippines, our employees, we provide a wide range of benefits to our employees, but they're free. One of them, so that we developed recently, is that they're free to join the Alliance Française. And as Zara, you mentioned, and some other people mentioned, it's hard to learn French. I mean, I'm a French native, so I see my wife is Filipina, and it's quite hard. It's a hard language to learn. Despite a lot of classes and despite spending a lot of time in France. And I decided to partner with Alliance Française, not really for people to become fluent and to become bilingual in France, but also because since we have mixed teams and we work with French clients, I think that, you know, by learning French, they get to share the culture, they get to understand that culture, and it sort of bridges the gap between France and the Philippines. So the goal is to have people immerse in the French culture, and so that people can get closer to their counterparts. And some of them actually travel to France once in a while to visit also our offices there. So here, as you can see on my screen, these are the main services that we provide actually from the Philippines and from France. And so we have a team, one of the department of Castellis, which I head, is the Global Cloud Operation Services. And I have about 10 people in France and about 50 people in the Philippines. So since I live in the Philippines, of course, maybe I'm a bit biased, and I prefer to work with a lot of people in the Philippines, which I think are very good in service, and that's how we differentiate ourselves at Castellis. We try to be very customer-centric, and we want to provide great customer experience, and we put it at the center of our process. So that's why we are in each of our team, we have delivery managers and we have customer or customer success manager. As Zara mentioned, these are the people that we're recruiting. We're also recruiting technical people, but we're trying to find, and maybe this is the venue, and that's why we have a booth and people that are ready to meet some of you if you're interested to join us. If you speak French, if you're a French speaker, even if you speak just a bit of French, join us so that you can work for a French company and be immersed and work with a large French company that we're lucky to service today. So thank you very much. And well, I hope to see you in our booth later.
Thank you so much, Mr. Geoffroy of Castells. Okay, so now it is time for us to get to know another opportunity. Let's speak with Mr. Vital Chio. Hi, Sir Vital. Are you still here with us?
Hi, Zara. I'm here. Hope you can hear me.
Hello. Yes, of
Right.
IBM. There you go.
Right. It's not going to be long. We have a lot of openings for IBM for contact center representatives. And what does a contact center representative do? It requires skill in conversational French. And this is for calls, for chats, and for emails. But for those who are not as fluent as much as that for France, what we do in French, what we do is that we have back office roles. So this is for employee data management. We have payroll, we have benefits, and then we have compensation. So this one doesn't require a lot of French because basically we're looking for people who can understand the language and then process whatever is requested. We have booths later. I'll just paste the names here, the people to look for, if that's okay with you. So these are the people to look for in the IBM booth later on, and they'll give you details on what is the recruitment process, what are the requirements, how to proceed, how long it takes to hire, and whatever else is needed. So basically, I think that's it from the IBM perspective. Not a lot, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Vital. All right, so as Vital and Geoffroy mentioned, there are booths available for you. So you can click on that sponsor tab and check their booths out so that you can get to know better the opportunities available to you. All right, lastly, let us call back Cecilia Lai of Desjardin. Hi, Cecilia.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
All right. So I'm going to continue sharing my screen like where I left off. Just give me a minute. All right. All right. All right. Can you see me? Can you see my screen, actually?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So I was right here. We talked about what Desjardins is and where it's founded. It's actually a Quebec-based company, and we are a financial institution. However, in-house, we also... Yes.
Sorry, Cecilia. I'm not sure if it's just me, but I can see emails of Vincent.
Oh, wait a minute.
And Charles.
How come it's like this? Sharing. How about this?
There you go. The creation of Immigration Support Center. You got it.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. So yes, we have an in-house team that actually take care of all the foreign workers that are coming to work at Desjardins. So this was created, actually officialized in May 2022, and it's actually part of Desjardins' strategy to amplify its commitments to equity, diversity, and inclusion. Although we are based in Quebec, but internally we have a strong team that's multicultural. As you can see below, there are a few pictures here. Aisha Musa, she's actually one of the manager of this center in Desjardins that's helping all these newcomers working at Desjardins. And Diana Nino is one of the new recruit that actually works at the technology group of Desjardins. So we have that support within our company. And also, I'd like to show you just above here, Antoine Fong is actually someone that actually came here as a program analyst, And of course, you can see that he talked about how he appreciated the support that our team has provided to him. So, I mean, we are hiring. There's a lot of job openings, especially in IT. Although we are a financial institution, but we hold about 53,000 employees at Desjardins. So there's plenty of job openings currently. All you need to do is go to desjardins.com career website, and then you can create your profile and put in the job aspiration, and you can apply on the job itself. And you can find me on LinkedIn. That's no problem, and I can guide you through the process. And I will be at the booth as well. You can click all the information that you need regarding foreign workers as well as international students, because international student can work 20 hours per week while they study in Quebec. So that could be also a part-time job at Desjardins. So here you go. And few website that I can show you is we also have different webinars that are offered in English, French, and Spanish. And here are different pictures of what we help over like about 2,000 seasonal workers that we actually accompany for our partners in the agricultural industry. And here are a few companies that we actually support in terms of partnership for the account openings. And here's a QR code. If you are in the process of coming to Quebec or Ontario as an international student or as a foreign workers, go ahead, scan the QR code, fill up the form. If not, just take my email address down. That's it. Thank you, Zara.
Thank you so much, Cecilia. Okay. So I'm so happy that we finished that, saw that through. And again, if you have questions or you want to visit their booths, all you have to do is click on that sponsors tab and check out all the booths. They will be more than happy to answer your question. There you have it, ladies and gents. Our official forum is wrapping up. But before I leave you to network with each other and our speakers for today, let me say thank you so much for being here. It was such a great pleasure learning alongside you. Thank you everyone for attending these conferences. I know that everyone's eager to meet the panelists and of course book your one-on-ones with our different partners. And it's just perfect because our next part of the program is the networking. So again, to participate, all you have to do is visit the stand of our sponsors and book an appointment with their representatives. For those willing to know more about the immigration process to Canada, Desjardins' booth is there. You'll also find Campus France if you want information about studies in France. ICRC will also be there to answer your questions. Thank you so much for everyone. To our panelists, thank you so much. To our sponsors, Desjardins, Castellis, the Manila Times, the French Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Thailand, Malaysia, and the Philippines, and of course, the whole network of Alliance Française around the ASEAN, Bali, Bangkok, Brunei, Kuala Lumpur, Manila, Meda, Penang, and Singapore. Thank you so much, everyone who joined. Merci beaucoup. This has been your host for today, Zara Carbonell. I hope to see you soon. Au revoir.
Au revoir, merci.
Merci.